Hello everyone, this is Ethan Brown again, and welcome to my Milestone 1 presentation for the spring semester. This presentation is more of a recap on what goals have been met and my plans with Shackled Souls moving forward. To kick things off, it is a good idea to talk about the goals that were met for my original project proposal for Shackled Souls. So the first, and in my mind, one of the most important goals that I met in the first semester for Shackled Souls was the stage generation, and this is for two reasons. For one of the core pillars of the game was divergent environments, which is handled with procedural generation. And for two, without the stage, you don't really have the rest of the game. So the stage sort of encapsulates the rest of the game. The stage encapsulates the player, the enemies, the mechanics. Without the stage for all those things to fit into, you don't really have the game. So this is a very fundamental base for the game that if you don't have it, you don't have the rest of the game. Second thing I knocked out was the main character design. I have Galvarino completely finished, although he's not completely polished. I do have a main character in the game, Galvarino. I have his abilities in there. I have his stats in there, and I have inheritance set up for future characters as well. I also have basic enemy design, at least enough for a core game loop. I have about 4 enemies in there, and I'm actually currently working on a boss right now as well. And then I got in the basic evolution system. So whenever you kill the enemies, you consume their soul, get life force back, you get strength off of that, you level up your elements, and then you become stronger and you get more stats because of the enemies you kill. So that's the basic evolution system that I got implemented in the first semester as well. The importance of time, this was a big one. This was actually one of the simplest systems to implement, but it is a very important one. And although it was simple to implement, I don't think as the game's going forward it's going to be simple to balance because there's going to be so many factors in the game that play around your life force, and time is one of those factors that's constantly draining your life force. So with that, there's a lot of things to keep in mind whenever I'm going to be balancing out how time affects your life force as the game goes on. So this covers about 3 of the 4 pillars for Shackled Souls. So I am missing a pillar here, and I'll get into that here in a second. But this covers divergent environments. This covers evolve to become stronger, which is one of the key pillars of Shackled Souls. And then another core pillar is the importance of time. That time is of the essence constantly. So with the idea in mind that this class is split across 2 semesters, the first semester was planned out for the core game loop, and the second semester was supposed to be all about the polish stage, putting on the finishing details, and just touching up everything to make it the best quality that it could be. But I had a lot of scoping issues, so I did miss out on some core features that I either need to drop or go back and touch up on. So I'm missing out on the pillar playstyle. So because of the scoping issues, I couldn't implement things like character choices yet. I couldn't implement things like artifacts from the sacrifice room, which influence how the game is played. And I couldn't implement things like the evolution system having choices at the end of each stage. I haven't gotten that implemented. And considering that pillars are the core fundamentals of the game that make it what it is, this isn't necessarily something I can drop. So this is something I'm definitely going to have to go back and touch up on. Something else was there's not enough depth in the evolution system, and there's not enough depth in the combat system. I kind of already touched on the evolution system thing. Mainly, that's just going to come into choices with evolutions. Primarily, this is going to affect the way abilities work in the game. It's going to be changes for evolutions and abilities primarily. Now, for not enough depth in the combat system, I did have enough enemies implemented for the core game loop, but I kind of bit off more than I could chew, and I planned on making way more enemies by this point than what I thought I could. And there's also the whole issue of tech debt, like general tech debt. So just the way in which hits are registered even has kind of held me back from making a fully completed combat system because the way in which I originally developed the way hits are registered have kind of held me back from that as well. And I also fell short on enemy design, and a lot of that comes down to lack of art assets. That has really held me back for falling short on enemy design. So going forward, I'm going to have to just kind of use placeholder art and then just kind of bear through it and then just start designing enemy AI and stuff like that, even though I don't have the art for it yet. So yeah, there are a lot of things that still need work before I can actually get into the polish stage. Understanding that because of my scope issues, that I have tech debt and I have some features of the game that aren't completely implemented, I have to focus going forward on depth instead of width of features. So I have to focus on the depth of current systems, making sure they're completely and fully fleshed out, completely developed, and I can't develop wide in the sense of putting in more features because that will take away my focus from completely developing the things that make Shackled Souls what it is. So using the developing deep and not wide approach, the roadmap will be demonstrated below. So firstly, combat depth. This stage in the roadmap will also handle most of the tech debt going forward too. So it's not only going to be for combat depth, it's going to be for handling any tech debt that might make developing more difficult going forward. And then I can kind of get into the next stage of player choice, which is a core pillar of Shackled Souls. I'm going to develop a whole stage of development cycle for that. And then after these two things are in, I can finally kind of start getting into that polish stage. So I'm going to start getting into sound design. This is things like music, enemy sounds, attack sounds, just things like that. And then I can get into the finer polishing details and a scoring system. And then after those four stages of the development, I will be ready for the final vertical slice. Thank you all for watching and have a nice day.